welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's Friday, May 31st. You're watching News 2 on VIA Channel 4 and 504. I'm Leslie Kamisiang. Topping our stories tonight, local chapters of the American Federation of Teachers hope that a plan is being put together to address the infrastructural issues at Virgin Islands Public Schools. Governor Bryan submitted the proposed fiscal year 2020 executive budget to the legislature and AFT representatives, and they want the Department of Education to receive the funding it needs to provide safe spaces for learning.
The American Federation of Teachers recently met with the Department of Education. The St. Croix AFT chapter hopes that a well-funded plan will soon be introduced to address the repairs of the schools during the upcoming summer break. The AFT reminds the public that accreditation is soon approaching.
I really feel that education in the Virgin Islands is in a state of crisis. Because there are a lot of monies that the Virgin Islands need to fix these schools. And everyone can see that. It's no secret. You walk into the schools, you hear the staff complain about getting sick. A number of members have filled out the first incident report at Department of Labor, which leads to, workman compensation benefits. And members continue to get sick. With the heavy rain, Central High School, the water's been pouring there. And at a number of schools, our classrooms are leaking. Most of these schools need what you call capital improvement project. If FEMA is not going to send all the money to fix all these schools, then we need to decide what's going to happen. Okay? I know that Elena Christian was being housed at the Prior Manor School, and I'm sure that rent was exorbitant there. The Department of Education just suffered, I believe, a $7 million budget cut. The governor submitted his bill last night, the executive branch bill to the legislature, so I have to review that to see where we are. But historically, there haven't been much money from the general fund to deal with the maintenance of our schools.
And does that affect our accreditation as well?
Oh, absolutely. That's a concern I have also, especially Central High School is up for accreditation. They are going to be receiving visits from middle states. And if we don't have that school, repair at the level that it should, then of course accreditation will be in jeopardy.
Alexander Henderson Elementary School is one public school that will not be reopening next year. The school was closed because unknown contaminants caused students at the school and staff to fall ill. There has been no updates as to what those contaminants were. Government House has released the fiscal year 2020 budget. According to Government House, the aim of the budget is to stabilize government spending. It features some $1.2 billion in expenditures, including $941.9 million of local funds and $216.3 million of federal funds. And there is another $69.1 million of debt service payments. Here are some of the highlights. The budget proposes roughly $817 million for the executive branch. This is a drop of $39 million from last year's budget. It also sets aside $23 million for the legislative branch and another $35.2 million for the judicial branch. The 2020 budget assumes no debt financing, nor new taxes. It also includes full funding for the payment increase negotiated by the MAP administration. On top of the additional $41 million this incurs to the personnel services section of the budget also includes a 1% set aside for expected salary increases. The 2020 budget also includes $75 million to pay income tax refunds owed to Virgin Islands taxpayers, which is some welcome news for residents still waiting on their refunds. There is a significant increase to the Virgin Islands Fire Service, which now oversees emergency medical service personnel from the Department of Health. There is also a $7.1 million in funding for mental health services in the Department of Health, and this would be for individuals with mental illness who are in the justice system or are at risk of entering it. The budget distributes equal amounts of funding to both the Schneider Regional Medical Center and the Governor Wang F. Louis Hospital. Each of those hospitals would receive $22 million. The release of the 2020 budget sets up the budget review process at the legislature, which usually begins in in June and can go all the way through to September. We will keep you updated meanwhile, and you can review the fiscal year 2020 budget at www.vi.gov. Meanwhile, Governor Bryan recently signed a slew of bills sent up by the 33rd legislature. Among the bills the governor signed was legislation recognizing the Senate Majority Caucus that the 33rd legislature organized. That bill also elected new Senate officers and reassigned committee roles. The governor also signed a bill prohibiting veterans who receive taxi medallions from selling them to non-veterans. Also, he did caution lawmakers about what he thinks might be an unintended effect of the measure, which is that it also limits veterans who obtain medallions at the regular auctions. Governor Bryan also signed a measure extending the deadline for the Cannabis Advisory Council to establish rules and regulations for medical marijuana in the territory. This would allow, the territory to properly develop a comprehensive program, according to the governor. President Donald Trump's appointment of a Virgin Islands judge for a federal judge post is getting nods of approval from Governor Bryan, Delegate Plaskett, as well as the Virgin Islands GOP. Superior Court Judge Robert Malloy has sat on the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands since 2013. Prior to taking the bench, Judge Malloy served as an Assistant Attorney General of the Labor in the Virgin Islands Office of Collective Bargaining. He also served as a law clerk to Judge Raymond Finch of the U.S. District Court of the Virgin Islands. Judge Malloy earned his bachelor's degree from Hampton University, his Juris Doctor from American University, Washington College of Law, and his MBA from American University Kogod School of Business. Judge Malloy replaces District Court Judge Curtis Gomez. Coming up next, highlights from the 18th Annual Relay for Life on St. Croix. That and more when we return. This past Saturday, the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center hosted a pop-up clinic at the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center Flea Market in Richmond. Over 30 pets were brought in and received veterinary services and treatment at a very low cost. The clinic is part of Project Safe, a pet retention program sponsored by the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center and made possible thanks to a grant from the ASPCA.
We are here in Estate Richmond at the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center Flea Market, which we thought was a great location. We've already served over 35 pets today, and this program helps reach underserved pets in our communities.
The goal is to go into the neighborhoods and be able to help animals with individuals who might not have access to the animal care.
We provide low-cost basic services to keep pets healthy, vaccinations, heartworm testing, microchips that help them get back home, and deworming. I think the most common thing that we see is people maybe have gotten behind on something, or they're concerned about the cost and they may feel a little overwhelmed. So having an event like this where we know everything's $5 and they can get the dogs caught up and everything seems to be a relief for a lot of people.
The month of May was Mental Illness Awareness Month, and Virgin Islander Yesin Hall was back in the territory on a mission to end the stigma of mental illness among families in the Virgin Islands. Hall is a native of St. Thomas who lives in Orlando, Florida. She shared her struggles as a result of the impact of mental illness in her personal memoir called Journey Untold, Twisted Love, My Mother's Struggle with Mental Illness. Hall talked to students at the Charlotte Amalia High School, Ivana Eudora Ken High School, and wrapped up with the Adelita Cancrine Junior High School, where she did not hold back any of the details of her life. Here's more.
But the part that really got me was that she was running behind me screaming, "Grab that child, I'm going to kill her." Those are the last same words I have in memory of my mother. "Grab that child, I'm going to kill her."
Mental health is an issue that people are always very afraid to address. For children, it's difficult. There's always a sense of shame or helplessness, not knowing where to go. And every year, Yasin has come in, a former student of mine from Shaw Amalia's honor program. And Yasin will come in and she speaks to our children and she breaks mental illness down for them.
A lot of times our students shy away from, discussing their emotions. They pretend that things are okay. A lot of times in our culture, there's a big taboo about addressing mental health and even acknowledging mental health. So conversations like this, they're really important.
Over the weekend, St. Croix marked its 18th annual Relay for Life. Hundreds of people came out to support the event at the Educational Complex track, including victims living with cancer, survivors, their families and friends, as well as community leaders. Governor Bryan, his wife Yolanda, and daughter Samaya also joined the march. There was a traditional March of Survivors and the lighting of lanterns. This year, some 27 teams took part in the relay. One young cancer survivor spoke to News 2 about her battle with the illness and how she held on through the kindness of family, friends, and fellow cancer patients. Here's more.
I had cancer since I was 2. I'm in remission for 5 years now. I have love and support from my family and from my mom especially. I go to Puerto Rico August and November for a checkup to see how I'm doing, and so far it has been very good. A very young man named Georgie, he built up money so I can have my surgery, over a lot of money. I think it's $1,000 or more, $1 million. But he really helped me. He passed away a couple years ago, 2 years ago. It was very sad, but I would like to support him and I would like to thank him up in heaven for helping me and saving my life, and to all those people that have supported me and helped me.
Great job, Lalani. Coming up next, our Pet of the Week plus our News 2 AccuWeather forecast. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This week's Pet of the Week is from the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center's Adoption Center. Meet Miss Fabulosa.
So I have Miss Fabulosa. She is a 1-month-old tabby, gray and black. And she has been at the shelter here since early May. She came in by herself. She was found out in Barren Spot by some good Samaritans who saw her, who basically kept coming into her yard and managed to get her and bring her into the shelter. And Fabulosa is one of many kittens that we have here at Pet Place, because here on St. Croix this time of year it's kitten season, and so a lot of mama cats are giving birth to a lot of litters, and we see a lot of litters come in to the shelter system here. And so it's a great opportunity here to kind of remind the community that through the animal shelter we offer very low cost spay and neutering to help control the kitten population here on St. Croix. And as you can see, Miss Fabulosa is very playful. She does very well with other cats and kittens. And she, along with all of her adoptable friends, are available here at the Pet Place, St. Croix Animal Welfare Center's pet adoption facility located in La Grande Princesse. We're on the North Side Road right next to Food Town. And you can have Miss Fabulosa or any of her adoptable friends. All of our kittens and puppies under 6 months are available for $60, and all of our adult cats and adult dogs are available for $40.
Miss Fabulosa is a real cutie. If you're interested in adopting her, you can call the St. Croix Animal Welfare Center at 778-1650 or visit their website at www.stcroixawc.org. We've also featured pets from the Humane Society of St. Thomas. You can check them out by calling 775-0599 or by visiting www.hsstt.com. Now let's take a look at the weather for the next few days with our News 2 AccuWeather forecast.
Good evening and happy Friday. We're headed into the weekend, still talking about wet conditions. We are still looking at a flash flood watch in place here through the rest of tonight. So with that being said, you do want to be aware when you're driving or even walking around town. Now notice we're starting to lose our source here. Our disturbance is becoming its own, and it continues to press its way further to the east. And taking a closer look, we are still looking at lots of moisture streaming through the Virgin Islands, some relief back into Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and Jamaica, but into the leewards and here at home, it's still pretty much unsettled. And I'm going to show you something on the water vapor. Once again, this water vapor indicates dry air and very moist air, and we're in that moist zone, but this disturbance will continue to move its way out towards the east and lift a little to the north, and on the back side is where we're getting that drier air indicated by the yellows, the oranges. We're still in this very moist zone, but eventually some drier conditions to come. Now, this disturbance does have the potential to develop into something more subtropical, potentially a tropical storm, but at this time it's way early to put any labels on it, but just know it will continue to move out of our area. Spotty showers tonight, some of which will be heavy with a low of 77. As we move into tomorrow, you're looking at a high of 86, and showers are going to be heavy. In fact, you'll notice the wet weather activity definitely more active tomorrow compared to today. You're going to see that in St. Thomas, also topping off in the upper 80s and 86 in St. Croix, calling for heavy showers and the likelihood for some flooding concerns to continue across the island. Your marine forecast: winds out of the east 10 to 15 knots on the Atlantic side, waves running 2 to 4 feet, and on the Caribbean side, waves 3 to 5 feet, winds out of the east 10 to 15 knots. No cautions in place at this time. Moving into your Sunday, slowly starting to notice improvements, drier air coming in from the north and west, and still going to be some showers and plenty of clouds. Then we'll turn to a bit more lighter forecast in terms of precipitation for the early week, which is good news because we have been so soggy. So trade winds going to try to reestablish themselves, talking about just spotty showers and less heavy downpours. And also, hurricane season is starting June 1st, so be sure to get your hurricane kits prepared, even though we are talking about no storms coming our way at this point in time.
Thank you for that. We don't have to beg for rain anymore. Coming up next, Alex Randall's news and comments plus sports highlights with Gary Anthony when we return.
You're watching News 2. This is Alex Randall with News and Comment. We're getting a new hospital on St. Croix. Federal Emergency Management Agency will cover the cost of replacing the Juan Louis Hospital on St. Croix. New building, not a repair. And all the funding coming from FEMA and other federal agencies. Now, it may be smaller, it will be more energy efficient, and it certainly will be built to be resilient to withstand storms. Not only is the Juan Louis Hospital getting replacement, FEMA is going to pay for it, but they're actually doing a pretty good job in the facilities they have right now. A news article in The Source Online describes the newborn intensive care unit at the St. Croix Hospital. Back in the old days, they did not have a doctor who specialized in newborns. St. Croix had an infant mortality rate around 14 babies dying for every 1,000 births. That is higher than the national average. Then, the hospital hired a neonatologist. That is a doctor who specializes in taking care of the medical problems of newborn infants. Of particular concern are the newborns called preemies, who are born earlier than their due date. They have all kinds of special medical problems. After putting a neonatologist on staff, infant mortality rate dropped down to about 2 per 1,000. That is lower than the national average. Now, St. Thomas has had a neonatologist on staff for the last 20 years with a similar low infant mortality rate. So it pays to have the right doctor who knows how to take care of the problems that show up. And even with a doctor who knows all about newborns, they are actually having fewer babies born right now. Fewer babies mean we need fewer schools. Virgin Island government is in the process of abandoning several school buildings on St. Croix and St. Thomas. Evelyn Williams School, Elena Christian Junior High School, Charles Emmanuel Elementary, all those buildings out of business. Alexander Henderson School, building problems, not reopening. On St. Thomas, Leonard Dober Elementary will no longer be an elementary school. The Edith Williams Alternative School is moving into the Dober buildings. Joseph Gomez School's 5th graders, they're going to BCB for 6th grade. Same with Bowski School's 5th graders. They're going to BCB school. Why the changes? Well, school enrollment used to be around 16,000 students. Now it's down to around 10,000 students. Fewer students, fewer schools. You don't see this, but a lot of our electrical lines are being secured against future storm damage. Cruise Bay St. John slated to have all the electrical lines go underground. Now, it's not done yet, but it's 100% funded and on the agenda to be done. And on St. Croix, there are places where the utility lines aren't going underground, and those sites are getting new composite poles. That's also happening on Water Island, where old, broken wooden poles are being replaced with composite poles. Those poles get lots of extra guy wires and other security features, so they will not blow down. Here comes a Cannabis Expo. Agriculture Commissioner Positive Nelson and 420 Media putting together a conference and exposition to educate and support the territory's move toward medical cannabis. This one is called Carnival, and the idea is to showcase the potential for products and services around medical cannabis, hemp, and cannabidiol industries. Show opens July 19, more of it on July 20th. There are businesses from the mainland and local businesses expected to come. The exhibit will showcase the latest products, technologies, methods, and services to help the cannabis business. Admission is free, and there is a website. You're invited to come. Sadly, we note the passing of Herman Wouk. He was 103 years old. In the real world's obituaries, they talk about his famous books, The Caine Mutiny, Winds of War, War and Remembrance. They are big books and famous books. But here in the Virgin Islands, Herman Wouk is much more personal. Herman Wouk moved to St. Thomas in 1958 and lived in a little house above the harbor. And he wrote our most famous book while living here, Don't Stop the Carnival. It may be the most famous book about our islands. Still in print, still for sale in local bookstores. And Tiffany Anique's book, The Land of Love and Drowning, is a direct response to his book, Don't Stop the Carnival. Herman Wouk has passed. Thanks for watching. Alex Randall, News and Comment. Now back to Leslie.
Thanks for that, Alex. Coming up next, Gary has a packed sports segment for you. Gary, what's going on with sports?
I'm Gary Anthony, and this is News 2 Sports. The NBA Finals finally got underway last night. The Golden State Warriors going for a three-peat versus the Toronto Raptors, who were making their first NBA Finals appearance. The Raptors also got their first win in the NBA Finals, a 118-109 victory over the defending NBA champs. Toronto had 5 players in double figures, led by Pascal Siakam, who soared for 34 points on 11 for 17 shooting. Dude was hot. The Raptors lead the best-of-7 series 1-0 with Game 2 on Sunday night in Toronto. And you best believe the Warriors will be making some adjustments. From three-pointers to bows and arrows, the biannual Virgin Islands Archery Championships will be taking aim Saturday at the Isaac Gatewood James Park in Frederiksted, beginning at 8 a.m. The tournament is open to all archers at all levels. The course, that features targets from 15 meters to 70 meters. Archery is a sport with a very even playing field for all competitors, and the Virgin Islands is a great place to learn.
Well, the Virgin Islands is a great location since you can practice all year round outdoors. There's generally always a breeze, which is nice because the wind really separates those who are at the really elite level from those who are kind of more recreational or kind of advanced amateur. Being able to deal with the wind is really important. They don't stop a tournament for the wind unless it's gale force. They don't stop a tournament for rain unless there's lightning or if it's, again, kind of a gale. So The Virgin Islands has those conditions, whereas a lot of the world has to stop shooting outdoors for the winter. We don't have to here.
So my brother started shooting archery, and I came down with him one Saturday, and I got really interested in it. So I started shooting. First I was shooting compound, and then for the past maybe 6 months I've been shooting recurve.
How do you like archery?
I do like it. It's a lot of fun, and it helps build your focus, and yeah, I like it.
I just came one day because I always wanted to do archery.
How come?
Because it sounded fun.
And how are you liking it so far?
It's good.
Why is it fun?
Because I get to shoot and I get to get a bunch of bullseyes and stuff.
Oh. So you're good at the bullseye?
Yes.
Great. Are you looking forward to Saturday?
Yes, I am.
Why?
Because I'm going to get to compete and see what I could do.
That's it for sports. Have a great weekend.
Thanks
Leslie,
for that
back to
segment,
you.
Gary. And that's it for our show tonight. We're live on Facebook and YouTube and on via Channel 4 and 504 Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 7 p.m. and 11 p.m. Follow us on social media. Tag us on any stories you want to see or on the news, or send us a message on Messenger. You can also email us at newsdirector@tv2.vi. Thanks again for joining us on News 2. I'm Leslie Comisiang, and we'll see you next time.